Tua became a representative of Perry Ellis. It was announced today, Perry Ellis and Tua. That's what's going to start rolling in for Tua now. Okay, the sponsorships are going to start rolling in, and it's interesting. We talk about, well, we got to see Tua stay healthy, right, to feel good about all of this, right? Well, it looks like advertisers are also saying, "Hey, man, we gotta get on the Tua train." They saw the dance in the end zone. They saw 70 points. They see that he's the number one rated passer in the NFL. All of us. Plus, he's a phenomenal young man. He's a perfect young man, to be quite honest. Okay, and that should automatically end up happening where he's going to end up. And Perry Ellis and Tua, that's just like a classy clothing company for men and a classy dude. And that's going to be a lot of fun to watch how he's going to grow in that area, because you the idea is, see, Flo was that terrible father or mother that doesn't really encourage their kids, is kind of like berating them all the time and ripping into them and that kind of stuff. So he was a bad parent that really didn't know how to actually raise a child. You know what I'm saying? And so here, you got to have an environment. One of the things, my dad, rest in peace, he was always encouraging me on whatever I wanted to do. He would then get behind me on whatever it is. It didn't matter. If I wanted a skateboard, he'd buy me a skateboard and, drop me off at a skate park. If anything, motocross, whatever. If I wanted to be a pilot, and in his deathbed, when I told him, I'm getting into radio, and he was, always like that. He was never about ripping into me unless I deserved it and I did something stupid, which of course I did plenty of that as a kid. And then, those us old school people, we don't have a problem with a lot of what when we would get ripped or whatever, because usually we deserved it and we knew it. It's kind of like, that's the difference, I think, with young people nowadays. It's kind of like they think they don't deserve any kind of criticism or any kind of, beat down. Obviously, now you can't even do it, but back in the day, boy, you got your share of beat downs. You know what I'm saying? So you got to grow, and he didn't have the environment to grow. In comes Mike McDaniel. Tua has the environment to grow, to flourish, so he can actually use his talents and his skills. You're going to do the same thing to your child if you're berating them and not giving them any kind of encouragement, because then they're never going to find their path, because they're going to be afraid to test anything because of the ridicule and because you're not encouraging, unless they get away from you and then they feel free that they can actually go and do what they want and they can kind of grow. And that's what's happened with Tua. Tua always had this ability, you know. He always was going to be a terrific player, but you can kill a terrific player if you actually don't nurture the relationship. You're going to kill that plant if you don't nurture the relationship by giving it water. You're going to you're going to kill that relationship with your dog if you're just kicking it in the side and throwing it in a corner and never giving it any love. You know what I mean? How's the dog going to feel ever wanted? I and one of the things, any of us that have adopted dogs, and we've adopted many already at this point, the first couple of days or weeks, maybe it might roll into a month or 2 months. It might. The dog is very tentative. You ever adopted a dog? And when they come into a new home, aren't they tentative? Aren't they worried and they don't know what to do, this, that, all that? And then, obviously, if you're a loving home, you're encouraging them to do all kinds of stuff and giving them love and all that. And then before you know it, the dog has completely changed, and that's happened to us where we've had dogs they were in shelters, Flashy, who's no longer with us. That poor dog, when we brought him home, he was so scared. In fact, when we tried to grab him in the cage, he went back to the corner of the cage because he just didn't know. He didn't know who's grabbing him. He's just there, and all he hears is 100 other dogs barking and all that. So his experience, he must have been terrified. He just never really got love until we picked him up and held him and petted him and kept making him feel that, okay, you're home, you're fine, you're good. And then the dog grows. And all of a sudden, instead of staying in a corner for a while, now he's roaming all over the place. You know what I mean? Now he's more confident about everything and coming to you and all that kind of stuff. Anybody that's adopted dogs, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You usually are bringing home a shell-shocked child, okay? And then you've got to nurture that child. And this is what's happened with Tua. You know, Mike McDaniel came in and instead of using the flow style, he said, "No, man, this kid's got talent. Let's bring it out of him. Let's watch him grow." And then now he's grown. He's allowed to be himself. He's allowed to roam around the house. You know, he's like that dog that got adopted. He's roaming around the house, and now he feels comfortable. Like this is my home. You know, now I feel comfortable. I can do anything I want. I can even bark at people now that are outside there because this is my home. These people love me. They're right behind me all the time. Dog feels different. Tua feels different. Tua grows as a player, and now you're going to see all this other stuff. He grows. He's allowed to be the leader of the team. People then follow. You saw Armstead's response in the locker room. How much he loves Tua, and he's done this many times already over. You know what I mean? But again, you got to give people the opportunity to be themselves so they can grow. And this is what we're watching now with Tua. And I'm sure the sponsors are going to be lining up because he's an exceptional human being, besides being one hell of a football player and one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And this is all going to be really gratifying to watch for him personally, that he is allowed to do his thing. And I think a lot of you have experienced what Tua has experienced in different times in your life when you didn't get that kind of support. You know what I mean? So I saw that today with Perry Ellis, and I thought that was actually pretty cool for Tua Tagovailoa.